Good afternoon, everyone. Hello and welcome to Enlightened World Network. This is the Soul Food Book Club, and we are here to have fun, first of all, but we're here to discuss the current book that we are reading, which is Loving What Is by Byron Katie. Thank you all for holding that up. I have mine on Kindle, so I don't have one to physically hold up. But we have a wonderful family here to discuss this book. We have our Auntie Jean with us. And our Aunt Mary Lou.
Hi, everybody.
Linda Lemieux.
Hello.
And Charlie Coons.
Hello, everyone.
And I see we have people watching, so if you all want to comment and give your input to this book as well, whether you've read it or not, if you're hearing something that resonates with you, just put that message in there and we will see it. So we have been talking about this book for a few weeks, and she refers to the method that she's teaching as the work, which I think is really interesting. It's our inner work that we're doing. So it's not something that's physically straining on us, but sometimes it can be kind of emotionally tugging, can't it? And I know several of us have read stories in here where she's worked with clients, and those stories are kind of touching home. So anybody that has had that experience or would like to share anything about that, please feel free. And we decided last week that we were going to choose a quote from the book and talk about why we chose that quote. What does it say? And what does it mean to us? So I'm just going to open up the discussion here and let anybody that wants jump right in here. There's no frogs.
Oh, she's got one. Let's see.
Self-realization is not complete until it
Lives in action.
lives in action.
I'm sorry, it's not, I should have put it on a piece of white paper instead of pink.
That's sorry, I could read it. I just got stuck on that one word.
But
Self-realization.
And I think I did it on purpose and wrote it in the way I did because self-realization in itself, the quote is self-realization is not complete until it lives in action. And I think I'm just going off the top of my head and my heart thoughts. I didn't really put a lot of thought into it ahead of time. I didn't know we were supposed to do that until you just said it. And, but I think I can handle it, and I think self-realization to me is truly going into your head and your heart and spending time with yourself in quiet time. Most of the time that's in meditation, opening my heart and my mind up to God. And so that to me is what self-realization is, that I'm not going to really get to a place of health until I do that first step. And then where is that going to bring me to make it complete? When it brings me until it lives and in action. And for me, action is just service and intention and doing for others, in an intentional, loving way, and just don't let it just fester inside of myself, but to, take that realization of faith and hope and love and bring it out into action with others. So that's why I loved that quote from the book.
You know what page?
No, I don't, because I also am working off of the
Kindle.
The Kindle. And
Okay.
so I don't have the page. I'm sorry, Linda. It might be on one of Charlie's quotes that he gave to us so graciously during the week. It might tell the page on there.
So nice.
Thanks for doing that, Charlie.
Yeah, they were the quotes like in the beginning of each chapter. So
Right.
And it's hard to pick one. They're all so meaningful.
Oh, they're all so good. But
Yeah.
Mary Lou, I wanted to thank you for picking that particular one. And as I was thinking about the words of it, I just had the thought that that's what our acts of kindness do. They really lift us up, don't they? we're doing them for somebody else to lift their vibration. But when we do an act of kindness for somebody, there's just a special feeling that we get inside. And I love that. And I love that quote. So thank you for bringing that one forth.
And Charlie, I would like to thank you for sending those quotes and working so hard. And guess what?
Stop.
I didn't come with a quote. I've been so busy. She keeps
take
me
your
busy.
phone out. Take your phone out and go look at them now and pick one, damn it.
I don't know how to do it on the phone, Charlie.
Well, you just go to Messenger and look at Soul Food Book Club. And they're
And
written
not have
there.
Messenger downloaded on her phone.
I don't yell at me. I don't have it.
Oh, she don't have Messenger on the phone?
No.
Oh, well, you better teach her something, Terry.
Okay.
Miss
Terry
Teacher,
can teach me later.
Teacher over there.
Well,
She's already
don't-
complaining about all of the messages she gets through text, Charlie. I don't want her throwing the phone in the garbage.
Okay.
Don't yell at me because I'm mad already.
Oh, you're mad already.
Yes.
Oh, 'cause you
I
didn't
didn't
get your
realize I was mad until I went with my husband to the doctor and I snapped at him for no reason whatsoever. I was reading chapter 13, and that's where where she talks to the girl about being abused.
All right. Well,
Remember that chapter.
that's going to be your quote. You move totally away from reality when you believe that there is a legitimate reason to suffer.
Wait a minute, that was my quote.
You stole her
You stole a quote.
You stole my quote, Charlie,
You stole her quote.
and tried to give it away.
I gave it away. So you both can use that quote.
Aggravating.
Let Terry go about what she thinks about that quote then.
Okay, I will be quiet.
I love the quote because I don't say it in those exact words, but the gist of it, the meaning of it, that you do move totally away from reality when you believe there is a legitimate reason to suffer. So when we're doing the work and when we're doing especially our own inner reflection, I'm always reminded that if it's something that's really aggravating us, Jean, creating that energy of anger or hurt, that's something from the past that hasn't been healed yet. So we're using something that's already over and done, something that's already, happened maybe even years and years and years ago. And not to minimize that it happened. It did happen. It carries a lot of emotion with it, a lot of hurt. But I think you've all probably heard me say this so many times. When you hold those low vibration emotions inside, it's only hurting you. When you're angry at somebody else for something they did to you and you can't go into forgiveness for it, even if it was something horrendous like abuse, child abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, it's hard to forgive. It really is. But if you keep regurgitating that inside of you and you keep digging in there, and every time something comes up surrounding that issue and you go into a rage or it just causes that tightness inside of you, that's that issue hurting you over and over and over again. It's like you're abusing yourself. So thinking that you have that legitimate reason, you're justified in holding on to the anger. You're justified in keeping it in the forefront of your mind because it happened, and it did happen. But for you to move forward to true happiness, you have to start letting it go, because it's not hurting that person that abused you. It's not hurting that person that disrespected you and dishonored you. The only person it's hurting is yourself. And that's why this quote spoke to me so loudly. It's like, yeah, that's exactly what I think too. That's what I've learned over the years. And yes, I had child abuse. Yes, I had spouses that abused me and disrespected and dishonored and just totally mentally would rip me apart. I've been gaslighted. I've had all of that. But if I keep doing the blame game and pointing my finger, that person hurt me, and so I'm going to stay hurt, it's not helping me to move forward in my journey. It's not helping me in any way at all to be the person I want to be, that person that can be healthy in all ways. And healthy is not just the physical body, it's also mental health and emotional health. So that's my take on that quote and the way I feel about it. Let me tell you how I really feel.
No, I absolutely agree with you, Terry. I really do. What aggravated me, there were three things. One, I'm hoping this one is not true, that was done in front of people, because it sounds like she's doing interviews she's done in front of people. And I didn't like that. Okay, if it was. Now, it might have been private, and I'm just missing the boat on that. The second thing was, oh my goodness, I forgot the second thing, but I know what the third thing was. It was that in her talking, okay. The second thing was that she seemed to get her to a healing point in 10 minutes. I don't think that's possible. I think, because she was working with the questions and everything, understand that. But when something like that has happened to you, I don't think it's that easy. I think it takes work, a lot of work, days and months, maybe even years of work. That's just my opinion. The third thing was in her questioning and her favorite thing of turn it around, she actually brought up that the woman had abused her abuser. And I didn't like that. When she was doing the turnaround, she would kept saying, well, is there another thing you could say? Is there another thing? And one of the things she got her to say was that I abused him. And that upset me. That's what I think kind of aggravated me more than anything else. And you're maybe I am hanging on to something, but a child who's abused is not abusing their abuser. I'm sorry, I can't convince myself of that. So that's why I yelled at my husband. Okay.
Poor Ron. The thing to remember for all of us is that's not our story.
Right.
That's not our story. Yeah.
I do kind of agree with what Jean is saying. I was thinking when you were talking, Terry, that it's kind of a place of self-pity that we find ourselves in initially. And I think the author allows that time, by asking ourselves the questions, is it true? Is this true? And first you have to acknowledge it, that it is true. And then you have to also acknowledge and accept and allow the feelings that come from that, whatever the situation is, and I agree with you, Jean. I don't think it probably, I think she's using these as examples in the book, and it I don't know that it happened that quickly for anyone, but I think it is a process, but if we want to stay in that self-pity, then we again have to make another choice. We have to allow those thoughts. I think that's what you were telling us, Terry. We can choose to allow to stay in those thoughts, or we can acknowledge them, feel the pain, and then do steps to have the turnaround happen. And that's not an easy process. No, it isn't. You're right. It didn't happen in that 10 minutes in that book
No,
for
not
anybody.
at all.
No.
It took me almost a lifetime to get over some of the hurt
Yep.
and the abuse.
Exactly.
But you
it
learn
really-
techniques. You learn
Oh,
techniques,
yes.
and it's about forgiveness. An abuser. I don't know. They used to teach us. I did child protective classes in my job years back, and protecting our children, it was called. And it was a team that came out of Texas that trained us. And they used to say, the abuser is a person. The abuser is a person. And so don't look at the abuse. Think of them as a person. And honestly, I have struggled over time with that too. Yep, they're a person, but that person has got to be held accountable for their actions. It's not just the action, it's the action that came through that person. And so I think that the only way I've ever resolved is that forgiveness doesn't just happen one time. It happens over and over. Every time you feel that pain, you have to forgive it. You have to forgive it again and again. And some visuals that I used to like were put my crown on my head and put my big girl pants on, and then, in doing that, it made me capable of coming to a place where I could forgive again and again, or help others to forgive again and again. Just by that simple reminder that, it's not always an easy process, like you were saying. And I don't know about taking accountability, same as you. If you're a child and something like that happened to you, it's not that's a tough thing, and I wonder about that, author. I don't think she intended us to interpret it in that way. I think that she'd be hurt, if she thought that her readers were thinking that an abused child should take responsibility in any way, shape, or form. Because anybody with any common sense would know that that's not, it doesn't apply to this technique in that manner.
But she actually got the girl to say that she had abused him. And I guess it just hit me wrong, because I'm like you, Mary Lou. I think children are innocent. And okay, maybe when you're abused like that, you might try to take advantage of the situation a little bit, getting things or getting whatever it is, presents or whatever. But initially, I just can't blame a child for, in any way, for the abuse that has been brought upon them. And
I'm not sure that's what she was getting at, or hoped
well,
us to.
Perhaps I misunderstood.
Yeah, you took it that way. You took it that way, which you're entitled to. That's what reading is all about, right?
Yeah, I really did take it that way. There was something else besides the saying that she had abused him that I don't know what it was, but I think we victimize the victims sometimes. It's just like with rape, sometimes they make the woman feel like she was responsible for what happened to her. And that is so wrong, in my opinion. So I saw it I'm an emotional person. And so, especially where children are concerned, I'm like defensive. And so I may have taken it the wrong way, because I didn't like that part. I'll just say that. Okay, I didn't like that part.
That's good that you didn't like it.
Yeah.
It brings more depth. It makes you go deeper to look at,
Mhm.
and if you do the work, then you're looking at, okay, why is that affecting me so much? Why
Mhm.
is that upsetting me that this is the way it came about to be? Yeah. I'm sorry,
And the
Linda, I
fourth-
interrupted you.
Children have guilt. I mean, when something happens to them, they feel like they brought it on. I don't, I mean, if you're an abused child, you think it's because I'm no good. I am ugly. I'm unlovable. You take all those feelings, you take the blame on yourself anyway. You know what I mean? And like you said, Terry, it takes a lifetime sometimes to come over that, to get over that. So I don't think I could do what she had that girl do. I mean, I have forgiven, I have done all kinds of things, but I'm not going to say that it was that I abused the abuser, because I didn't.
Linda had something to say.
I'm sorry, Linda.
Oh, no, that's, there's so much to that. It's a cycle, whether it's alcohol or the gaslighting and being in that situation or the abuse, they're all tied in with abuse. And I think I had a situation with the gaslighting, but I had to forgive myself for why wasn't I stronger? Why couldn't I handle it? Why didn't I know about it sooner? I just took it as life. That's what it was. I didn't know there was a term for it or whatever. So a lot of times we just muddle through the best we can. And I wanted to add step 4 is, how would your life feel without that thought? Which gives it a little perspective. You can't erase it in 5 minutes, but you can say, how much do I have to keep holding on to it? Because I think sometimes it's just a safety valve when we get, it's real, but sometimes it's hard to give up something that you feel you've been with for so long. I'm just saying that. That's an opinion. It was hard for me to give it up because it was
heart-wrenching.
Yes, it's the way it is. I didn't know how to feel different.
Yeah.
So I took on a lot of the blame that I must have caused it, or I kept it going. And,
Exactly.
And the other person uses that against you. They have a kind of a little antenna. And when they know you feel like that, that's just gives them more food. So forgive yourself too.
Charlie, you're muted. He's talking away to us.
I'm sorry. The dog, Christine came in and the dog started barking. So experience is just a perception. It's ever changing. Even now is the story of the past. By the time we think it or tell it, it's already gone. That's in that chapter you were talking about.
Yeah, the experience is gone. The fallout from that experience is what we have to learn to come to terms with, to figure out how we can do the forgiveness work, how we can move forward from all of that emotional impact of it. But yeah, the experience has already happened.
It's just a thought. From the moment we attach to that thought, it becomes our religion, and we're attempting to prove that it's valid. The harder we try to prove what we can't know is true, the more we experience depression and disappointment. So you're abusing yourself by just the thought of that. Is what she's trying to say. You are abusing yourself by the thought of what happened, of the abuse that was caused to you, or
Yeah.
you know.
You know,
So you gotta get rid of the thought. You gotta do the work.
okay, I think I approached this wrong because I think you all are thinking I'm hanging on to that, and I'm not. I just was disappointed in, and what she said later on to the people who had been, like the Jewish people who had been, the man who had, as a boy, had been in the bombing and survived, and he'd hung on to it. You know, I agree with what she said. I just was upset with that one particular thing that she did with this young lady, was to turn it around and say, when she did the turnaround, that she had abused the abuser. I just, that was the one thing that I think just really, I don't, maybe it has something to do with the fact that I took it personal, but it's, I just don't think we should do that to people.
You're thinking again.
Of course I'm thinking, I'm alive,
There's your
Charlie.
problem.
but
You're going into your head again.
okay, I'm not saying anything else.
Okay.
Well, I agree with what Jean's saying, and by saying it, she's trying to prevent other people for taking on the blame that maybe they were the abuser or they did something wrong. So I think she's trying to make a correction or bring awareness to it, so somebody else won't get that same reaction.
I think I might have had, if it was that, I might have had that reaction when
I'm gonna go back and reread it, Jean, because
Okay.
you got me wondering now.
Yeah,
you know.
I was trying to find it and see how it was.
Yeah.
And you know, it's in, I'm listening to the story, I'm not reading it.
Right, yeah.
So I can't go back really
Yeah.
and find the exact words. So if you find them, I hope you do, because you know, and I think maybe just listening to it might evoke more emotions than reading it, you know.
Yeah.
Just like a movie will evoke more emotions sometimes than the book, you know, because you're seeing it. So, you know.
Yeah, and in chapter 13, I don't think there is a girl.
Well, maybe the Kindle is different than your book.
13 is questions and answers. It's just questions and answers.
Okay, next week I'm going to find it on my Kindle and play it for y'all.
All righty then.
I'm flipping through it now, Jean.
Okay. Well, I'll talk in the meantime.
Okay.
I had
So where she's asking, now turn it around. Turn it around.
which one am I turning around?
No, I was just telling Terry.
All right, they're all so good, the sayings before each chapter, but the one, everything happens for me, not to me, is the one, you know, is because whatever happened to me was meant to happen, so it happened for me. Just like when I had my near-death experience, that was meant to happen, that I was supposed to go up to heaven and be sent back. and there was reason behind that, and it was meant for me to do that, because I was sent back to take care of my wife, who had was going to get cancer, in the next year or so after I came back. So yeah, so like, and even when my car got rear-ended, whatever, that happened for me. A reason for that. There's always reason why things happen, and making friends with the worst that can happen. That was the name of the chapter for the Everything Happens for Me, Not to Me. And it happened to be the person that was afraid of death, or dying and everything.
I remember that.
Right, yeah. And, so it was like, it really resonated with me, If you want to live in terror for a few years, quite a few plans where, I'm afraid of dying, and he keeps going on, and it's, yeah, and she gets him the, it was like, wow. And finally it's like, oh, you can't believe, he was pushed away from God and everything, it really took a long time to get through to this, she really had to work with him. Yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of, I was watching TV, I don't know if it was last night or the night before, it's a show called This Is Us. Does anybody watch that?
I love it. It's my favorite.
and I don't know if you saw it this week or not, Linda, but
I did.
And I think of how here's this man who loved a woman for more than 50 years, and it just ate away at him, and he needed to see her, and the family went with him. The sister-in-law went with him and some other people to find this woman that he loved. And he had misgivings about it, but they found the place, and they knocked on the door, and the woman almost recognized him, but she wasn't sure, and he had to remind her, this is who I am, and do you remember me? And they had made connections as young people, and it kind of walked you through that kind of sensation of what the author here, I think, is trying to help us to do. Is they walked us back to the past, and yet they were living in the present. And somebody made a comment about, oh, it must be awful to have now I'm going to forget. What is that? Alzheimer's. It must be. Now, of all things for me not to remember Alzheimer's. But she's, yeah. So, one woman was just chatting with one of the guys with, oh, I think Alzheimer's would be the worst thing in the world, to have. And can you imagine losing your mind? Well, one of the women that was sitting at the table was experiencing the beginning stages of Alzheimer's. And it took courage for her to say, well, I do have Alzheimer's. And so then they were able to address, because she spoke up and said, I have it. There was a real communication, a truthful communication about it. And then other bonding was happening. And as you watched it, you could see towards the end that it was a beautiful thing for him. This woman that he went to see was married, and the husband was still sitting at the table and recognized that there was a thing between them years ago. And, and it showed him being a little intimidated and then accepting. And then it showed the whole process of human emotion. And that's what we're talking a little bit about is, experiencing something that could be painful, or like Charlie said, you can turn it around and make it something more than pain. In the author, make it more than the pain, It's something more than just that. It's not about what's happening to us. It's about how we respond to it and are able to move beyond it. And I don't know why I don't know, just that story seems to fit in with what we're reading, in our book. That sometimes we do have to go back and look at the path. For them, it was a beautiful experience. It showed them kissing as kids and feeling the love, and they re-experienced it on another whole way. It was so beautifully done, and I think, I remember a prayer experience at one time, a meditation that took you back into the experience, and you could feel the presence of God with you in that moment. And would that have changed? You would have felt the comfort and the love, rather than the pain and the suffering. Somebody that loves you intensely, immensely, would have been there with you in that pain. And it wouldn't take the pain away, but it gave you that. And I think the author's trying to help that to happen, Jean, when she says, go, is it real? Is it truth? And then what if, I think that's the intent of the book, is to help you go into those places in a new way, that is not as frightening, and to acknowledge it and then take the next step of moving beyond. Does that make any sense?
Beautifully
Yes,
put.
it did. And I do understand it. And for the most part, I've really enjoyed and agreed with what she does. It was just this one instance and that I really objected to.
Yeah, that's good. If you felt that way, I think that's good. That's good. It gives you another avenue to consider. And you're right on with your thinking. Nobody, should be abused and think that it's their fault in any way, shape, or form ever.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's what I feel.
Yeah.
I don't let go of my concepts. I meet them with understanding, and they let go of me.
That's your quote, Charlie?
Well, that's another one. I already did one. Doing the work on any thought or situation. And that's, they're all really good quotes. No, I did what? Everything happened for me, not to me. Yeah.
Great one.
Yeah. That's one that's one that resonated with me. On that was number 12 on 112, so I pick 12. A lot of 12, 2 1s and 2 2s. Yeah.
Anything else
So-
about the book or
Did Linda pick a quote?
I looked at, I had already done chapter 7, so I didn't want to do it again. So I looked at 11, nothing outside of you can ever give you what you are looking for. In other words, it has to come from within you. And that's, to me, a lifelong lesson. Some people maybe already have it, but it's taken me a while. But then I looked at 7 again. I kept getting pulled back there. And I didn't quite, even when I got to understand the question, would you rather be right or free? And it talked about self-judgment and are you afraid of life? To me, when I read that, I was expecting something different on there. But to make a statement, I started with I'm a failure at motivation. It's hard for me to motivate myself. So is it absolutely true? No, I'm not really a failure. But then it talks about how do you react when you feel that way? So, I've always lived with shoulda, woulda, coulda. I could have done this. I should have done that. And it's like constant guilt. It's like heavy, very heavy. So, because you're still making it as you go. It's not just like one thing that happened. It's like it's continuing. So, so I wrote down the things that I'm not a failure at, the things I'm good at. What would life be if you didn't have that feeling? So I started with I am a success. I am not a failure. It's not black or white. And I can improve on what I'm doing. So, and so I made a list of how I could help myself and what I plan to do. And it's very detailed. So it's, make a list of accomplishments in the past. And I realize now that I'm retired, I have more time to procrastinate. Because before, when you have 2 kids and you're working full time and you're getting up at 5:30 every day, and you come home and you have meals, and you're exhausted. And I was teaching, so I did a lot of lesson plans at home because I had individual plans for kids. So I really didn't have time to procrastinate. I just had barely time to keep my head above water. So now I can do it tomorrow if I want to. So I do. So I'm going to try to make a schedule where I do certain things on certain days, or spend an hour outside getting some vitamin D, and it's so good for your mental health. And now I I have to go trim the bushes, but I'm going to change it to I get to go outside and get some fresh air and that type. So I'm just trying to change my stinking thinking around, and why things are good for me, not that I have to do this or I shoulda, coulda, woulda. So I'm just trying to change my perspective.
Yes.
You're doing the work on self-judgment.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's exactly what it is. Those statements are judgment statements.
Right.
I should have, I could have. Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's all a judgment.
Excuse me. Yeah, it's doing the work on self-judgments, page 146. And also I'm going to have a daily plan for what I'm eating and whatever. But I saw this someplace else, and I did it for a while, then I kind of dropped it, but I'm going to add it back in. Not a to-do list, a done list.
Done.
You can have a to-done list. Ta-da. You can have a to-do
I
list
like that.
on another page, but on the bottom, things that you did. And even if it's just relax or smiled at somebody or meditated or
send nice messages to people like you do, Linda.
oh, thank you.
Like
So
you
I
do,
love
Mary
them.
Lou, when you
Yes,
send out
yes,
your
I love
monthly
them.
angels.
Oh, thank you so
too,
much.
Mary.
And I
Lou.
get so much myself from doing it, so yeah, it's good to find something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mary Etta does that too. So. You know what we're doing?
What are we doing?
We're doing something that a few years ago was real popular in education. It's called metacognition. Do you remember that, Linda?
Yeah.
Thinking about our thinking. Examining the way that we think. Of course, at that time it was in reference to us as teachers, about thinking about how the kids think, learning how they think so that we can teach them better. But what we're doing right now is that metacognition. We're thinking about our thinking, examining how our mind works and how it's affecting us as a result.
And what we could do about it.
And what we can do about it. Yeah. Yeah.
The action step is so important. It's great to think about it, but then what are you going to do? Right? Are you going to make any changes?
Exactly. Well, that's what it's for. So you can change it. Yeah. And the work is a great tool for that. It's a really great tool for that. Yeah.
Especially for people that are suffering and don't know why they're suffering. People living in fear every day, and why is this happening to me and not this, and
Victim mentality. Yeah.
Right. They can't get out of their own way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Another thing, going back to education, our assistant principal was real big on the I message. And it's, I am unhappy with you because when you put me down, I feel bad. You're not attacking the person, you're telling them what they did and how it affected you. Because a lot of people don't have empathy or don't understand how they affect other people, especially children. So you still care about them. You're just upset with what they did at that time. So it was very interesting. So you taught them how to say to each other. So it also cut out like the passive aggressive and the revenge and getting back and the outside in the yard. And, it had a lot of branches to it. And then we had kids that volunteered to be mediators so the kids could talk to each other. And that's really what we need as adults now, is just to be able to talk to each other. So that's one reason I like this book club, because we get to share ideas and nobody's really right or wrong.
It's true.
True. Wow, this hour sure flew by, didn't it?
Yes.
So Andrea was here and Julie Kiss. And Andrea says that we were talking about letting go and doing the forgiveness work. And she said, it's not easy though. No. None of this inner work is really easy. I mean, it's
Not for women.
it's as hard as we make it, right? We can resist it, and that makes it harder. But you're right. There's nothing easy about it. It's not something that is going to happen in 10 minutes, Jean, just like what you were saying.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of going deeper and digging in there and seeing what needs to come out.
And for anyone who doesn't know, the next book we'll be doing is
I typed it in already.
Oh, okay. But it's the way of the shaman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the comments for everybody that's going to watch this.
Okay.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay. I don't see the comments, so I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's good to see the book, because when you're looking for it, you get the right.
Yeah, because there's another one with a very similar title that is the plural shaman, the way of the shamans, and that's not the book.
And I bought the wrong one the first time, so
Oh, you get to read two of them.
I get to read two of them.
Yeah.
All
All right. So if anyone wants to share anything else, if not, we'll go ahead and close it out for today, our little book club circle. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you to those who are watching it now or on the replay. And if you're not here with us, why not? Consider joining in and coming in and having discussion. Don't even have to turn your video on if that's what's holding you back. There's no judgment in here. There's no criticism. And if you just want to come and stay behind the camera and have your camera turned off, we're okay with that too. But we'd love to have this book club expand and have more people tuning in and sharing your ideas and thoughts along with ours. We all have sometimes differing opinions, and that's okay. It is what it is. We read and we resonate, and then we talk about that. And if it's something that you don't resonate with, a book that we're doing, then just stay off that month. But consider being in here and joining with us. And like I said, next book we're going to do is, I think it's going to be a little bit different for us than the other books that we've done. We've done a lot of self-help books. We've done a lot of fun books. But this one, I think, is going to take us to looking at another way of thinking with the shamanism. And many people are not familiar with the shaman way. And I think this is going to help us to understand it a little bit better. And I'm excited about that. I love learning. So if I can learn something from this, then I'm very happy about it. So we will start next week, I guess, talking about the way of the shaman. I don't know if we're all going to have the book in. Those of us that are getting it on Kindle will have it. Gina might just have to share mine with you.
You might. Or I might have to buy it on Kindle too.
But you're getting the book, so you're more than welcome to use mine.
It's coming tomorrow. Don't worry.
Okay, thanks,
We're gonna hold you
Charlie.
to that, Charlie. Oh, can you tell us the lottery numbers also, please?
It sounds like 1 2 1 2 1 2.
I think so. I think we need to be playing those this month.
Charlie.
All right. Well, thank you all again for being here. We love you so much. Keep coming back, and we'll see you next week.
Namaste,
Namaste, y'all.
y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Bye
Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.